Well, hello and welcome to CTV, the show where anything can happen. And tonight, it probably will. To help me tonight is Mark Zapatowski, one of the great heroes of the CTV Society. And my name is Mark the Noble Blue Hammond. They just call me Blue if you get to know me. But what I would like to do, and what I posed to Mark earlier, is the title of our show tonight, Quasars, not one, not two. And how can we make this political? Because it's been our criticism that we're not political enough with these explorations that we do into UFOs and extraterrestrials, free energy devices, hidden cartels of money laundering amongst the upper 1/10 of 1%. You know, somehow that's not political enough. But what I'd like to do is just relate to you something that you may not have heard of. But 3 days ago, in Grayling, there was another UFO sighting right in Michigan here, and
another? What was there?
There was
just before then too.
Well, there's been many, but this one was about 5 days ago. It was up in Grayling. And it was a color, just like you see in the movies, with the colored lights, doing all kinds of amazing things in the sky. The guy's got videos of it, got pictures of it. And it isn't something that just happened back in 1947. This stuff is still happening. In fact, 9 and 10 News at 11 reported it one time, and that was it. You know, like, I don't know whether somebody calls them and tells them no more UFO information, but they reported it one time on 9 and 10 News at 11 because I happen to live up in Newaygo County. And you probably don't get it down here in Grand Rapids. But to kind of tie in with that, something new, the Nexus magazine of this month's 2015 June copy. If we could go to that first magazine, John, The Twilight Zone by Linda Moulton Howe. It has an actual map of a UFO base in Antarctica. These people who've been down there swear to God. I mean, some of the books we'll get into tonight, these people swear to God they've seen these things. These are huge. These are silver discs floating down into the earth. I remember a few months ago, maybe a couple of years ago, we did a report from Denver with that radio station. Only one time was on the internet, but they had these silver discs shooting out of the ground at 400 miles an hour or faster. I mean, they were shooting out so fast that your human eye couldn't see it, but they got pictures of it with the video cameras. And when they showed it to these aviation experts, they said, "What kind of airplane is this?" They couldn't identify it. So there's the map. That's the Antarctic Peninsula, or continent. If you can see that just 20 miles away from the South Pole, there is it's not a very good map, but there's a hole where these things come in and out. Mark, can you tell us about that? Do you remember when Admiral Perry, after World War II?
Yeah, it was called Operation High Jump, and he went down with an aircraft carrier, a cruiser, like 4 or 5 destroyers, a few submarines, and 5,000 Marines, land troops. And supposedly they were going to map the coastline of Antarctica.
Right.
And they were going to go for a year, and after like 6 weeks they came back, and they'd lost some planes. They'd lost like 5 planes. They'd lost the cruiser. I think they lost a destroyer. All sorts of things were going wrong, and they said, "Whoa, the weather was really rough," you know. But other people, well, one thing birds seemed to imply at the time when he got back that they were running into scary stuff, and that and he made a statement about the next time there's a war, we're going to have to, in the next war, they had just come through World War II, in the next war we're going to have to deal with craft that can fly from pole to pole, assumably without refueling, So he was running into these craft, and people said he was kind of like on the edge of a nervous breakdown or something. So the assumption is that guys were killed and planes and ships were lost because they were engaged in combat.
Right.
And so the story goes that the combat that they were engaged in was, I mean, they went down to find New Schwaben land, which is an area of Antarctica that was claimed during the 30s, in the late 30s, by the Germans. And then supposedly, according to statements made by the submarine commander Dönitz, who said things like, we've discovered a paradise at the end of the earth for our Führer. So the story is that there are volcanoes and hot, so there are warm sources under this huge mass of ice, which is Antarctica, and that somehow this has made Mulan's ice caves open to the ocean, and this is the supposed paradise, and these are the Nazi bases, and that supposedly the Nazis may have had friends in the UFO community of outer space people and all this kind of thing. So that's Operation High Jump. It was a real thing, and real
thing.
people were killed
after the end of World War II.
Just after World War II, 1946.
Yeah.
47.
Now, this article by Linda Moulton Howe is up to date. I mean, this is the latest information about that New Swabaland hole in the ground. And, I was reading this one report that they have cloaking devices, how they can cover the, you'd think you could Google Earth it and see the hole in the ground, but somehow they've got a cloaking device over this thing. And a lot of the books that we've been reading are about cloaking and stealth technology, and how the human eye is just one little electromagnetic spectrum of what we can see compared to what's actually possible with the new physics that we're running into. But tonight's show is about quasars. That was just introductory, but tonight's show is about quasars.
Side visit to,
and we're trying to find out, how can we make a quasar political? Let's have a picture if we could. There's a picture of it. There's a quasar. These objects, quasar stands for quasi-stellar object, but these objects in the universe that we know of are the oldest objects and the most powerful objects that we've ever discovered. Some of these quasars have the luminosity of 2 trillion suns. Imagine that. Imagine 2 trillion suns luminosity. And these things are the furthest away from us and are traveling and actually accelerating faster and faster into deep.
Well, one would have to assume that these are some of the oldest things then that have existed in our universe.
Yeah, so what is that? What is a quasar? It's a quasi-stellar object with a luminosity of 2 trillion suns.
And from that illustration, diagram-y kind of thing right there, it looks very much like a black hole with that jet of material shooting out at at both poles, assumably. It's got this material shooting out, right? So that's very black hole-y.
Well, it is. They think that these are ultra supermassive black holes at the beginning of the universe that existed. One of the maps I saw about the history of the universe says that there are even more ancient objects out there, but we can't find them. They call them third-generation stars. But they supposedly existed just after the Big Bang cooled down enough for atomic structure to occur in our universe. It went from a plasma state to an atomic state. And these third-generation stars are made up of what they call a perfect fluid. Somehow it's somewhere between regular matter and plasmatic supermatter. But how can we make that political? How can a quasar be something? Now, I would say one of the ideas is that this is our mythology. See, we're trying to make up a story in our minds about what a quasar could possibly be. This is what these astronomers do. When they first discovered quasars, they couldn't believe them. There's another object called pulsars, which are neutron stars, very similar but smaller, less energetic, but they spin at 500,000 times a minute. 500,000, I mean, a thing the size of the sun, spinning 500,000 times a minute. It seems impossible, but when they discovered them, they thought they may be alien because of the regularity of the signals that were coming as these things rotated. Now, I think that what politics is like we were listening today to the left-leaning radio talk show hosts and how, basically everything was wrong, and there's a lot of complaining and going on, and how the corporations are all ripping us off, and there's a lot of garbage. But that's a story, isn't it? That's a story they're telling us. I mean, we listened to Stuart Wilde, and we listened to David Icke a little bit, all about the reptilians in charge of our planet, and how the upper 1% act a lot like the reptiles' mind. They've got this sort of winner-take-all mentality. But the quasars are supposedly neutral objects that we can discover through science. See, here it is on the very fringes of the universe, and yet we can see these little red dots through our super telescopes, like the Hubble telescope. And through study, we realize that they're moving away from us at a tremendous, approaching the speed of light speeds, the oldest objects in the universe. And yet, if we could go to this next one, number 3, the Book of the Universes. This is the creation of Einstein's universe of motionless matter. See, Albert Einstein said in his first special relativity papers and general relativity papers that the vast majority of our universe doesn't move. What does move is time and space. But the majority of the universe has no movement whatsoever. If you look at it in a way, it's
because
like...
the majority of it doesn't have matter in it? Is that why?
Well, the vast majority of our universe is empty.
Right.
Of matter as we understand it.
Space-time has time because there's matter in the neighborhood.
Well, you have to have movement in order to create time. See, time is akin to duration. And what he saw was that the only way that you could have motion was in relative a relationship to another object. See, as far as every object in the universe goes, it doesn't move. It only moves in relationship to another object, or relative to another object. So he's saying that the vast majority of our universe is non-moving. This will come up later in the show about meditation, because when I was over in Australia and learned about meditation and India, they basically are about watching your breath, watching allowing your mind to slowly come to a still condition. Why? Because the vast majority of our universe is still. See, when you sit in a still position, your mind's waves, they call them mind weeds, slowly calm down, and you can tune in, like in Zen, we'll get into it a little bit later, but the Zen idea is that this is the beginner's mind, and the beginner's mind is the fresh, open mind. See, the beginner's mind has many possibilities. The expert's mind has but a few, is an old Zen statement. But what they seem to be implying is, if we could have that number 4 up there, this is a picture of Einstein's block universe. But what they're saying is that all time is relative also. If you could put up number 4, John, when you're ready. Most of us think that each moment is a specific, unique moment that we're in it. Like right now, this is a unique moment. But what Einstein realized, what he called the block universe, was that the past and the future could exist simultaneously with the present. See, so he's saying that the entire universe, from the beginning to the end, is completely motionless until we use physics to relate to other objects in the universe. We'll get a picture of it up there in a second, but it's hard to imagine, it's counterintuitive for us to think that we're not moving. You know, doesn't it seem so obvious that we're moving? That we're talking and we're having a conversation and there's movement going on?
Well, there's change. Certainly.
Just like back in the Middle Ages, it was completely intuitive that the sun went around the earth, you know? The idea that the earth went around the sun was crazy talk. You know, but today we take that as a given, that the earth goes around the sun.
There's your black universe.
Yeah, so now if you look at this picture, most of us think that the universe is like that black square, that we're in a specific, unique time and space. And what Einstein realized was that every single moment in the universe was completely motionless from the past to the future, but they all exist simultaneously with each other. We naively believe, what they call naive realism, that we're in a unique spot right now. And what these, we'll get into it a little later, but what these Zen masters do is that they slow their minds down until they tune into the black universe. See, they're not deluded into thinking that we're these.
So what, they tune into the three-dimensional
They tune into that one on the
space?
right.
The one on the right, okay. Where they're traveling through?
No, they're not traveling. Nothing's traveling. Nothing's moving.
Well, it
still,
looks like there's this spiral.
It's already done. It looks like it, but it's not moving, see? That's what he means by motionless universe. All time is in the present.
Okay,
See? There's no real past, no real future. They're all present right now in this block universe, he calls it, which is completely different from what physicists thought back in Newtonian times and prior to Einstein. Einstein brought this block universe thing, but I think he got a lot of it through finding out about Eastern ideas of meditation and stuff.
So this only the present is real, is that Einstein?
That's
or is
the
that
conventional. That says conventional.
That's the
view.
conventional, okay.
Yeah, now go to the other one and see the block universe. All times are equally real. Meaning the only thing that's moving through the universe is our consciousness.
Yeah, we're on a travel through time, but
We're traveling through
we're going
time.
in one direction, seemingly.
No, there's no direction. You're not moving at all. See, we're fooled into thinking that we're moving.
But we have this experience of today, tomorrow, the next day, and our lives are like a ray moving through these present moments.
Well, that's what we think, but that's what we've been told, and that seems commonsensical. That's what made Einstein so amazing, was that he could see that the universe didn't move, except in relationship to other objects. See? For one way of looking at it is, right now we're moving at 600 and some thousand miles an hour around the Milky Way galaxy. But how do you feel 600 and some odd thousand miles an hour moving through you? No, because reality doesn't move. What does move is our relationship to other objects in the universe. Just as the past and the future are all present in the moment we're in. That's why consciousness is the only thing that moves through time. See, and consciousness is easily fooled into thinking that common sense is reality. Some of the things we're discovering now about the membrane theory and the new physics begin to show us that we don't really know what we're doing. Let's let's put up number 6 if we could. Skip number 5 for a second. Well, let's go to number 5. That's cool. This is Mika Hank's book, 2013, The UFO Singularity. And what Mika is proposing is that there will come a time when we will understand that we're not the smartest creatures on the planet. That there will be either artificial intelligences or are already intelligences that are what they call singular. And now, where's that word singularity come from? Do you remember black holes? How at the center of black holes they have a singularity?
Right, and also the singularity is the state of existence that precedes the Big Bang, assumably.
So,
well.
which is outside of time. Somebody was talking earlier about how general relativity theory is based on the speed of light, and the speed of light, when you reach the speed of light, time stops, right?
All things are combined. There are unified states. It's a unified state. It's just a singularity. Yeah.
It's
In the
not
middle of
just
a
a
black
singularity.
hole,
The
that's
singularity is
singularity.
actually what's happening. If we could put up that number 8, if you could, John, the black hole at the beginning of time. Scientific America, which is, it's a popularized scientific magazine, but it is a very well-respected magazine. And it shows that for the majority of what we are discovering, we're a projection through black holes. Have you ever heard of a thing called the ergosphere?
No.
In this new physics, they say that on the surface of a black hole is a three-dimensional reality that's being projected through a two-dimensional ergosphere. Yeah, let's put that up. The ergosphere is actually traveling faster than the speed of light.
Well, Scientific American, perhaps this is the issue you were talking about, some months ago, maybe 6, 7 months ago, maybe it was 10 months ago, they were saying that it appears that we live in a two-dimensional reality that is projected onto a
through the black hole.
onto a shell that itself is three-dimensional, but it's just a thin surface, and it itself is a projection from an actual three-dimensional reality that we're not part of.
Four-dimensional. See, what they're saying is holography is all about dimensional relationships. See, it gets really strange, and this is why I wonder about politics. Like when I was listening today to these people talking about how bad Bush was, and they were complaining about the corporate system, and they were complaining about how the police are beating up all the blacks, and what you might call common sense politics. I started thinking, what is it about the esoteric awarenesses, which you learn about through, secret teachings from the past, and the Theosophical Society, and yoga, and all the Hinduism, and the Eastern mysticisms. Our physics is becoming a expression of Eastern mysticism. They've done a lot of books like the Dancing Wu-Li Masters and other ones that have this idea that these so-called great ideas that we have now have been thought of thousands of years ago by very intelligent people. And if you take the block universe, they're still being thought of. Right now, we talking about something that's happening thousands of years ago, in some way, holographically, are affecting that reality thousands of years ago.
Well,
because it's happening right now, see?
The thing that it should be apparent is that physics, as it gains these newer understandings, comes to show us a reality in which all of the supposedly spooky, esoteric nonsense could entirely be possible.
Very much, yeah.
Consciousness can affect matter, in that world, and there are certain famous instances in which that happens that have been known of for a long time. This sort of the electron through the screen experiments, and all that
double
kind
slits,
of thing. That the observer and the observed phenomenon are not independent of one another, but can be inextricably linked. Depending on what you think, it will affect the particle itself. So, all of that being the case, the thing that to me is political about all of this is that people live in such a narrowly defined world, that they don't see that the world that the conventional world, the conventional consciousness that we exist in, is really an absolutely false reality. You know, it is narrow, and it doesn't take into account what has happened and what is happening right now.
It's very
politically,
superficial.
socially, culturally, it is a false world that we live in.
Well,
Scientifically, supposedly what is science is
artists
not
and-
even taken into account by lots of people who consider themselves scientifically oriented. They can't deal with the
Yeah.
new science.
Hermann Hesse said that the strength of the bourgeoisie resides in its outer edge, which he was implying that artists and intellectuals develop far beyond the capabilities of the bourgeoisie because they penetrate below the surface of things. You know, they go and they get past the naive realism of the surface of things and appearances and go into the magic theater. He called it the magic theater of the mind. And you start to open up the possibilities that we're connected with every single event that ever occurred, ever will occur. You know, it gets very cosmic, what they call cosmically conscious. You start to see that there is no real fragmentation of the universe until we break it down erroneously into object-subject, subject-object. See, we forget that we're intimately intertwined with everything. We're actually not moving. The only thing that's moving is individual consciousnesses. And individual consciousnesses are very shallow pools. See, the deep ocean of reality is still. What does move is our common sense reality that says that we're a human being living on a planet and we're traveling through time and that we're going to die someday and all this. But these individuals that penetrate beyond that, the artists and intellectuals of the world, they see that there's a timeless state. See, he calls it eternity. Eternity, there's no time in eternity is one of the phrases from the Steppenwolf book. It says it over and over again. There's no time in eternity. So what he was implying was that geniuses are occurring all the time, and that the truly creative individuals of our planet are completely in tune with the moment that they're living in. See, they're not dreaming back to the good old days or projecting ahead somewhere how good it'll be when we get it all together. They're realizing this is as together as it ever gets, and I got to play with the toys now while I got a chance.
Oh, I have to. This is not as together. Yeah, I dispute that. This is not as together as it ever gets. If that were the case, then I wouldn't be involved with this television show. Because I think this series is about discussions and a project that tries to better the situation.
Yeah. Well, that's the illusion, is that we get better.
I disagree. But
Take any example throughout history, some good idea. Somebody thought nuclear energy was a good idea. And look what we got, nuclear weapons. Somebody thought roads were a good idea. What do we got? Overheating the environment through all this asphalt and concrete that we're making. Somebody thought genetically modified food was a good idea. And now we've got this sort of cardboard food that we eat. Every single moment throughout history and in the future is just as valid as every other moment. There is no nirvanic state unless every one of them is nirvanic. And what they mean by nirvana is samsara is nirvana. Samsara is everyday life. Everyday life is nirvana. That's the teaching of the Zen masters. In fact, why don't we put one of those up, number 9, if you could, John. Sunru Suzuki, 1970. Well, we're going to the UFO Hunter's Guide by Brett Leader, 2012. The only reason I put that one in there is because some of these people are serious. They are very serious. And the book we were talking about a little bit earlier, the UFO Singularity, Mika Hanks is taking guys like Brett Leader from the UFO Hunter Guide and taking them to task, saying that it could be possible that we're looking in the wrong places. What he's thinking is that if we really do want to get in touch with some of this esoteric awareness, we have to get into what he called negentropy. You ever hear of negentropy?
Negative entropy?
Negative, you know,
No, I've never heard of it. I would assume that. Well, tell me what it is.
well, supposedly according to the Big Bang Theory, the universe started out as this hot singularity and exploded. And as it cooled down, it became more and more. It's losing heat. You know, it's losing its mass. It's losing. Things are breaking apart. They started out as a whole, and now they're breaking into these smaller and smaller elements and particles, and everything is breaking down into a what eventually will be an entropy state. So
Less and less organized, less and less
organized.
energetic.
So our time. That's why the arrow of time
entropy.
only goes towards the future.
So what is
that's
negative entropy?
Negative entropy is the ability. I don't want to bring this up exactly, but negative entropy is the ability to use what they call dark energy to, because it has this expansive characteristic, it's like the opposite, it's like anti-gravity, it's the opposite of gravity. Negentropy is the ability to slow entropy down by using dark energy to open up these black holes to create wormholes, where if we can use the energy to open the black hole big enough, we're able to line up two different places in the universe right next to each other on these membranes, and instantaneously be there. It isn't a matter of traveling through space at hundreds of miles and thousands of miles an hour. It's a matter of instantaneously opening the wormhole between two separate spots, using negative energy to open these wormholes and create instantaneous transportation amongst anything. You know?
Amongst the brains, that's traveled between universes, actually.
That's what he's saying. That these wormholes, they call them the Einstein-Rosen bridge, because Einstein postulated or proposed that there would be these structures in the universe. We haven't found them yet, but there is tantalizing evidence out there that black holes could be leading to these white holes.
Well, they've been found, though, now.
Black holes have been found, and white holes have been found. A lot of people think that's what a quasar is. Now, here's the picture of the time before the Big Bang. See? There's the picture of the Big Bang. There's the picture of the universe as we see it. And there's the picture of what happened before the Big Bang. Now, if we can get into that picture of the universe in a nutshell, number 6 again. The idea is that we are right next to massive, unseen gravitational forces. That the massive gravitational forces of these membranes gravity somehow is able to penetrate these different membranes. That's why there's more of this dark matter than what we can account for. And it's speeding up things in our universe. So it has to be there. There. Now here's a good picture of it. If you take a look here, that's our, say our galaxy or our solar system on our membrane. That's the electromagnetic spectrum on the top membrane. But right below it is a huge object that is creating a energy well, but it's on another membrane, so we can't see it. But it's affecting our universe through its gravitational pull on the planets around it. So they've found out that 96% of the universe is this dark energy stuff, dark matter, dark energy combo. And they're affecting us, and this is why it's political. Somehow this thing is affecting our solar system, our planet, the cosmic bubble. And they actually call it a cosmic bubble, these guys with the membrane theory. They're saying that in the beginning, there was these bubbles, much like a steam bubble in a kettle, and that these bubbles are creating realities, which we're living in right now, as holograms. And when two of these bubbles collide, they create a new universe. And they think that this is maybe where the Big Bang came from, was these huge, unbelievable bubbles of primordial. If we could go back to that Big Bang
So the
time.
singularity wasn't a singularity; it was a duality that where two bubbles got together. Or?
Well, that's why
made
the name of the
ideas.
show is Not One, Not Two. See? Because in the Zen books that we got, if we could put one of those up, John, number 9, the Zen book, they're basically saying that there's only one reality, and it's not moving. It's completely and totally conscious. Yeah. Zen mind, beginner mind. That's why Zen seems so crazy, because it tunes into the immediate moment that we're in. See, it sees that this immediate moment that we're in is the moment. It isn't about a better moment somewhere else, or greater or more. It's about this moment being it. So what they do is they just watch their breathing. They sit and they watch their breathing, and what they find out is, well, let's put that other book up if you could, the Tao Te Ching by Jia Feng. When we were back in '72, when I was in college, we had a visiting scholar out to Thomas Jefferson College, and his name was Jia Feng, and he wrote this new version of the ancient book, the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. Now, as everybody knows,
Is
Lao
that
Tzu
the Book of Changes?
means
the I
it's the
Ching,
Book of
same
Changes.
Thing? Okay.
No, that's a different one.
Okay.
This one is about when Lao Tzu was the librarian of this ancient Chinese empire. He decided to just take off one day and disappear. Lao Tzu means old man. But the guy at the gate wouldn't let him go without writing this little book. And this book is the foundation of Taoism. Taoism is basically saying that the 10,000 things rise and fall and return to the source. The 10,000 things are knowledge about the reality that we live in. And what the Zen masters do is they calm their mind down until they are the beginner mind, the innocent mind, because only the innocent mind can ever be in touch with this moment. See, every other mind that we have is full of knowledge. It's full of stories. Knowledge turns out to be stories that are completely erroneous in the end. But they make sense to us, see? One of the things I wanted to show on this movie that we're going to watch in a minute is how King Kong, when he went up to the top of the Empire State Building holding the woman in his hand, and then the planes came and shot him and he put the woman down, and then he fell out, they machine gunned him off the top of the... Beauty kills the beast, right? That was the message of this movie. If we could get that rolling, but let me set that up for a second. This movie was called The Arab Conspiracy, and it stars Sean Connery. It was back in the early '70s, and it's
set in the early '70s.
It's set in the early '70s. It was made in the early '70s, and it was about a theoretical possibility that the Arabs would get their act together and build their own refineries. And the CIA and the KGB went around killing and assassinating anybody that tried to bring the Arabs and the Israelis together.
So it was a fictional film?
It's a fictional film, yeah. It's a alternative reality film.
At the time, okay.
A lot like...
From the early '70s, all right.
Now here's a phrase 37 from the Tao Te Ching about those that know don't say, and those that say don't know, There's a lot of contradiction. Okay, let's watch this for a second.
And in his memory. If those who caused his death did
Should probably turn it up for us to hear.
the ideals, the principles for which he stood, they were wrong.
Turn it up if you could, Stephen.
His assassination has failed. Maria Al-Taleb worked toward an Arab world united, but not yourself. one not should go naked, one not should starve.
That's good.
To work toward the world where each of our brothers might rise up each day, though his home be the desert, and clothe himself in dignity. This he worked for and fought for. He believed that the coherent principle of human existence was peace. And so he was murdered. His murderers, as we all know, sit among us here. I address you now. You have failed. You have destroyed flesh, only that. That is your triumph and your dilemma. But how do you kill a dream? The dreamer, yes. The dream, never. The dream survives. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, was established when we had no other way to convince the world to take us seriously, and to combat the oil cartel which has raped the Middle East for half a century. We were forced to speak with a corporate voice and present a unified front. This voice is now confused. It speaks in dark places, arranges arms deals, political, economic blackmails, terrorist raids, chooses sides, draws lines, and we lurch toward Holocaust. My country cries enough. My country calls for a new global, social, political contract. And if that means abandoning OPEC, we are prepared to do so. We will enter into partnership with any country for the research and development of new sources of energy. I call for a direct dialogue with Israel, so we can create a Palestinian state with men of goodwill at a conference table, and not from the debris of exploding villages and human life. Saudi Arabia will no longer contribute to the hostility between Arab and Israeli.
I'll be better on that old hearing alone.
A week on November 14, 1974, here before the United Nations General Assembly, a man came out of the Holy Land, and he said, I come bearing an olive branch and a freedom fighter's gun. Do not let the olive branch fall from my hand. I hold neither a symbol nor a gun. My hands are empty. They reach out to you. Which of you will take them?
All right. This movie was about, it's an alternative reality, of course, but it just shows what, we brought up Beauty and Killed the Beast. His dream about a end to all the hostilities in the Middle East is beautiful. It's a beautiful dream, see? But that woman that you saw there, she's a hired assassin hired to kill him, because the reality that we live in right now is the beast. See, we're living in a beast-like world right now, and beauty will eventually kill the man that was Sean Connery was playing. See, the beauty of his dream makes him so beautiful. It's like that song about Vincent, this world was never meant for one as beautiful as you. See, he's proposing this beautiful dream. That's why it's political. It's a beautiful way to change reality. We've been proposing this with David Icke and the Thrive movies, and we can eliminate this cartel at the top and all these reptilian overlords that supposedly we have, if we can get our heads out of the sand, and I mean, this is David Icke's idea, and the lion sleeps no more, see? Sean Connery is representing the lion. He's going, I'm not going to play the same old game anymore. I'm going to we're going to have direct dialogue with Israel, you know, for an Arab state back then. That was like unthinkable. The Arabs, they all wanted to kill. And now we're slowly in our reality getting to the point where the Middle East is starting to, Israel and Iran and all these Iraq countries are uniting in their own way to fight ISIS. You know, it's this kind of it's a crazy situation we find ourselves in now with competing ideologies that are both beautiful. And you can see that the ISIS ideology is, to a lot of people, a very beautiful idea. They love the Muslim faith. They think the Muslim faith is an extension of the Judaic-Christian. They all go back to Abraham, right? They're all part of that awakening.
Well, I think the Sean Connery character represents someone who is proposing to cut through the current situation, but you see resistance. There are all these people kind of looking like, oh, when will he shut up? Because they're uninterested in that. I mean, everyone's applauding at the end, but in our world, there are entrenched forces, economic powers, and the world is constantly at war. People are constantly not achieving the kind of development that they could have. And I really think that the reason for that is part of this illusory state where, you know, the most powerful people in our world forever do not want ordinary people to get their act together. When people are destabilized and in conflict, the very powerful people are able to control them. So all these nation states, all these people in struggle, allow the very powerful to continue to vampirize the rest of humanity.
Oh yeah,
forever.
Yeah, that's the bottom line, is that that power corrupts, and when you get a lot of power, when you get absolute power, it corrupts absolutely. I think that was Nietzsche's idea, wasn't it? And I think one of the things about the insight into Beauty Killed the Beast was that here's this gorilla, he's living out in the jungle, he's the king of the jungle. He gets taken out of his environment, put in the sideshow, and finally breaks free and takes the woman with him to the top of the... So what do? They shoot him down. All he wanted to do was live free. He didn't want to hurt anybody. It wasn't his idea to be brought to New York and shown off as a freak. See, the gorilla represents the innocent mind, the beautiful mind. And the reason he died was because he got caught by the beauty of that young woman. So many things in our society, and this is what I want to caution people about. If you can take anything away from tonight, it has anything to do with reality. See if it's possible to get past the beauty of your own ideas. See, because what we do is we get caught in how beautiful our ideas are. The Muslims get caught in how beautiful their idea. I mean, after all, Islam means peace. It's one of the most beautiful concepts in the world. The Christians, all about the love of Jesus, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thought. We get caught in how beautiful it is, and we can't give it up. Our cathedrals, the Vatican, all these religions, they're all beautiful structures, beautiful expressions, trying to find God through beauty. And the problem is that we don't deal with, that's why the name of this show is Not One, Not Two. It's not Beauty and the Beast, it's Beauty and the Beast being one, but also being two at the same time. How can it be one and two? It's not one because we know that we're separate and isolated, but it's not two either because we know that we're unified. See, and this is the conundrum of the Zen koans and things, like the sound of one hand clapping. They present us with direct challenges to all of our beautiful ideas. The direct challenge to our beautiful ideas is what scares us. We just want to have beauty, see? We don't want to have the beast. The whole story about Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. You know why they called him Mr. Hyde? Because you want to hide away that ugly part of yourself,
Right.
and be just this beautiful Dr. Jekyll, the learned, good citizen that helps people. But the reality is we're Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. See, that's the idea behind Steppenwolf, was that Harry Haller, the main character, he wanted to be just good. He just wanted to be good. He wanted to accept the teachings and deprive himself of any kind of sin or anything that would drag his spirit down. And he found that by the age of 50, he was ready to kill himself because he was denying his wolf side, the Steppenwolf side, the animal side. He was pushing all that stuff away. He was using all of his psychic strength to push the wolf away, the beast away. He just wanted the beauty, see? And that's what I think is the problem with a lot of our Middle East politics and other politics, is that we get caught up in an ideal. It doesn't matter whether it's left wing, right wing, but it's the ideals that collide. It's the beautiful ideas that we have that collide with each other. And so that's why I brought these Zen books up, because what they're showing is that any idea, no matter how beautiful it is, will distort your reality.
Well, the thing that fascinates me is that the world is confronted with absolute, civilization destroying problems that we can see on the horizon. We've messed with the climate. It's a system that's collapsing. We see it every day. There are 500-year-old, 1,000-year events happening every other year, and that absolutely should not be happening. And we know what the cause is. It's all of this carbon dumping in the atmosphere. And who's behind that? Well, the most powerful industries and the most powerful people on the planet. And that's why we get focused, I think, on so many of these beautiful ideas and the conflict of beautiful ideas, because the most important things to be dealt with are things that impact the most powerful people on the planet. So we never deal with the real biting issues that on the horizon are going to destroy us. And so we're giving it all over to the most powerful people. And you know what? I bet that they have their own lifeboats, and we don't have lifeboats in this situation.
Well, let's look throughout history what we know about. Let's say the Egyptians, for example. They had this idea of the God King, and it was the God King that talked with the gods, and that he was a direct connection to eternity, and that they had a whole mythology based on eternity and longevity and time. But how much different are we today from that period? We've got our Bill Gates of the world, we got our Putins and our Obamas. Those are kind of the God Kings that we live in today. They come down from high and tell us what's going to happen, right? So this idea of the block universe is basically that nothing is changing. It's just rearranging itself. The thing that I don't think a lot of ideologues get is that if their ideas were to ever take fruition, they would become frightfully oppressive. See, like Bolshevikism and capitalism were thought to be great ideas back in the day, but look what they led to. They led to Stalin and millions of people being killed through the purges. Capitalism led to the Industrial Revolution, where a lot of people died in the coal mines trying to feed the monster machine. People today are enslaving themselves in cubicles, kind of like in the movie The Matrix. They don't even realize that they're enslaving themselves. People say, well, we don't have slavery anymore. No, everybody enslaves themselves. So I think that what happens is you find out that the hologram is really whatever your mind paints it to be. So inside of your skull is a little hologram going on.
Oh yeah, well you mentioned The Matrix. It's very much people look at The Matrix and say, oh, what a fantastic sci-fi movie, that's incredible. But it's very close to our actual situation, as I can see it.
And probably has been.
Yeah.
If you ever study the Bhagavad Gita, it's basically a story about good ideas. You know, Arjuna, who's a great killer, says, I have this great idea. I'm not going to kill anymore. I'm going to go out and be a holy man. I'm going to be a peaceful man. Well, Krishna reminds him that his job is to kill other people in war. And as unidealistic as it is, it seems that when a person like Arjuna tunes into what their real purpose in life is, it can be anything. And it doesn't have to be beautiful. You start to see that the beast side of yourself is just as beautiful as the so-called beauty side of yourself. That's why it's not one, it's not the beauty, and it's not two. It's not beauty and the beast, it's the beauty beast.
It's a bit,
which is
seems
very
a bit
close to
harsh to tell someone else what they were born to be rather than allowing them
He
to.
tells himself eventually. He finally gets it. He gets, this is what I
develop.
was designed to be, was this killer. I know it's brutal. Well, hey, we got to wrap it up. I'm not sure
Okay.
how much of this has any relevance to politics, but I think it does.
I think it does too.
I think that people are idealists, and it's hard to deal with reality directly. With all
It's hard, but
all the violence and all the anger and frustration, as well as all the joy and happiness and wonder.
well, joy and happiness and wonder aside, we live in an incredibly falsified reality, as I like to say, and that has to be dealt with. People have to deal with the real issues and get out of their, get away from their various pet beauties and uglinesses and face the desert of the real. And beyond the desert of the real is a lot of beautiful possibility. If you see reality, you're in a better position to do something with it.